Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the punkrockhorrorpodcast, episode number 42. I'm Matt.
I'm Cody.
And today we're here to remind you that if you're not living like thrash or trash and jumping on a gravestone dancing naked in a cemetery, then are you really living at all? It's a shout out to Return of the Living Dead.
I know. I was just like, Jesus.
It's a good point, though. It is trash. I don't know why I said thrash. Because I feel like she's more of a thrash head than a trash head. So how's it going, Cody?
Not bad. How about you?
Good. We did a pretty good, solid werewolf episode.
Yeah, I think so.
We talked about wolves and, the bestiality that therefore resolves in it.
Yep.
I'm just kidding. We didn't talk about that. So let's jump right into it. Cody, what's something you love and hate?
Something I love. My mom actually. So my mom got her settlement from from suing this doctor for screwing up her hand, pretty much. So her hand's never going to be the same again.
Yeah.
From a surgery, and she finally got her settlement. She's actually been helping me out a lot this month. She's getting me a new computer, which I'm super stoked about.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've needed a new laptop for a while.
Yeah.
And it's just it sucks because I feel like I go through laptops like fucking hotcakes,
Yeah.
and I don't know why. I really don't.
It's because of all that
do
porn.
A whole lot, I guess. Harrison's sneaking onto it. But fucking asshole. No, it just kind of sucked because my last laptop that I really liked, it was an HP 360 touchscreen, so kind of like yours, but it did the whole 360 thing.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about.
And I loved that fucking laptop, and then I got an email from Windows and hey, here's a free edition of Windows 10, and it was straight from Windows.
Oh, that's what did it.
And it destroyed my hard drive. I was so mad. I was because it was working just fine, but to do some things on there, I had to upgrade to Windows 10. And it destroyed my laptop. And so I went to take it in to get it fixed, and they're like, "Yeah, it's gonna be $400." And I was like, "Well, at that fucking point, might as well just get a new laptop."
And Windows is better than Apple.
Yeah. I mean, I still think Windows is better than Apple.
I just thought it was funny.
Mm-hmm. But so that. So I guess the thing I love is I really gotta throw a shout out to my mom just because she's been helping me out a lot this week with that, and then I had to fix a couple of things on my car, and she helped me out with that. So love you, Mom.
Aww. Here at the Poker Core Podcast, we love our mommies.
Yep. And then also another thing, just so it'll bleed into the things that I hate, but one thing that I love is there's been a lot so I know there's an oversaturation with indie games in a sense. I know that's a big thing that I've been seeing on some of the my YouTube shows that I see is there an oversaturation with quote unquote indie games,
right?
And stuff like that. But the thing that I really like is that because most of the games I have on my Switch are indie games,
right?
And it's just because there's a lot more indie games that I tend to like more, cause sorry, Aaron's here. But I don't know, I just find more enjoyment out of those, and just and also because of most indie games, yes, I'm a little tired of the roguelite and the 8-bit stuff.
Yeah,
kind of the nostalgic. The fact that everything's nostalgic, but I understand when it comes to indie developers, it's easier to do it like that than the super realistic graphics and stuff. But it's the fact that most indie games and every single one that I like is all first or single player or couch co-op, and so that kind of bleeds into the thing that I hate, which I know it's kind of it's definitely a dead subject now, I feel but there's still some big name companies that are still fucking latching onto this multiplayer focused thing, and especially EA who claims single player is dead, and it's bitch, Spider-Man just came out, was the highest or the fastest selling Sony exclusive of over a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
God of War came out this year, solid. Red Dead Redemption 2 is gonna come out, and yes, it is it's going to have the online thing, how GTA Online was really huge, but
people are going to play for the story.
Yeah, and
people
it's
play Rockstar games for stories.
And it's a 60-hour campaign, fucking Witcher 3.
Yeah.
All of Bethesda's games, excluding Fallout 76 and what was it? Elder Scrolls Online. But like most of Bethesda's games are amazing. Like fucking Doom, Fallout, Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
Like, and those are all within the last couple years. And like, shit, even Nintendo, Mario, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, which is already in talks for like greatest game of the year.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and that's in contention with God of War and fucking Marvel Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, the thing that I hate is that, so, what I, it's gonna sound super shitty, but what I see EA as is the fucking Star Wars fandom.
Okay.
And this is why. So, and this is why I hate EA, even though, like, but, like, I shelled out $10 for Star Wars Battlefront 2 because it was, one of my friends I've been wanting to play online with for a long time, like a while now.
Yeah.
He has Battlefront 2, and he's like, dude, it's $10. And one of my other good friends, Shane, he told me, he's like, honestly, that's what it's worth.
It's $10.
It's $10. And the thing that I hate them, and so with EA, they're the ones that are like creaming themselves about saying single player games are dead.
Yeah, they didn't even make a solid multiplayer.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, like, because I did play a little bit of it in the multiplayer. It's a solid game, but the thing is that everything's blocked off of paywalls, and that's why they're trying to say single players are dead and want to just do multiplayer games because they just want you to pay for the extra content, pay for like pay to win and all that kind of stuff, and turning these $60 games into fucking freemium style games, and it's garbage. But the reason why I compare EA to the Star Wars fandom is because when you think about it, like, yes, EA does put out great games, and yes, they all have their issues. Star Wars fandom, they just, if it's anything outside of the original trilogy, majority of them are gonna shit all over it.
Yeah.
And like, you know, the new trilogy or whatever, I like those movies. I thought they were solid. I know 9 hasn't come out yet, but like 7 and 8, like 7 got shit on a lot. Even though a lot of people liked it, but it got shit on a lot because they were saying, oh, it's just a retread of A New Hope. And it's like, it is A New Hope, though. Like, it kind of needed to do that.
Right. And we talked about that, like, that you, like, the creators just can't win because if it's too much like the original, they're going to bitch about it.
Yeah.
If it's too different from the original, they're going to bitch about it.
Yeah, because, like...
if it's too much of both, they're still, like, you're going to bitch about it.
Yeah, because, like, The Last Jedi... Right?
Yeah.
That was the second one, The Last Jedi. Yeah. Like, that one was supposed to be totally, you know, its own story, and then everyone shit on it, and then pretty much just basically said, oh, it's just like Empire. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, I know the biggest critique of that movie is that it did nothing. It literally did nothing except kill the rebellion, basically.
Right.
But, like, I understand that, and I get that, because me and my friend Will talked about it. I think I've talked about it before on the podcast, too. But, like... I thought it was still a solid flick. It had great moments. Like, it was fun. And I still like going back and watching it every now and then. Mm-hmm. But then, like, in my opinion, to start, like, that's how I compare, like, EA and stuff like that. Because, like, they're saying single player's dead when obviously it isn't. And then all the hardcore, like, toxic Star Wars fandom, they're, like, harassing all the people and stuff, like, the actors, and closing down their Twitter accounts and stuff like that, ruining their careers over, you know, actually decent movie. Like, it wasn't bad. It was a pretty good movie, in my opinion. So
it's just can't have nice. We can't have anything nice.
No, it's just like in my opinion, it's just like, I guess the biggest thing I hate is just this assumption. It's just assuming things. Like, you know, EA assumes single player's dead when obviously it isn't. So the greatest games that's
because they're measuring it on a monetary scale. Because the whole idea is, like, once you buy a single player game, there's no more money you can make off it except DLC. But with a multiplayer game, there's more avenues to make more money off it by introducing paywalls. Which, like, from a business standpoint, sure, that's a smart idea because you're still gonna get people's money, and they did it. They did it with Battlefront 2. People were, you know, foolish enough to pay extra money, and they did. And that's the truth. The fact of the matter is that they knew people would pay for it, and people did. Yeah. And so it worked. But
I don't know. It's just like what I'm not, because like it also leads into like the new Call of Duty. Yeah. Like everyone says, like, if you like the Black Ops series, you're gonna like this game, but.
There's no single player.
And actually, and it's really funny to hear because even though like statistics have shown only like I'm just blowing this number, but it's really low. But it's like about 15% of Call of Duty players actually play and finish the campaign.
Yeah.
But everyone's saying that we wish there was a campaign.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's trying to justify paying $60 for this game.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm not going to pay $60 for a single player or a multiplayer game when I can go back and still play Call of Duty World War II with a decent single player campaign and still play the multiplayer there. Or if I want to play a multiplayer focused game, I'm going to go play Fortnite. And it's free.
Yeah.
Like...
So, I mean...
I don't know. That's just, like, my biggest thing is just because, like, when you really do look at the grand scheme, and look at Nintendo, its biggest fucking IPs are single player focused. Mario, Zelda, everyone wants a Metroid game.
Yeah.
Castlevania for a while there. Like, fuck off. I guess that's kind of the biggest thing that I hated is just, like, I saw it in the talks again, like, where there's some companies trying to argue that single player is dead. It's like, yeah, the independent gaming is booming hardcore, and like Nintendo saw that, and so their entire eShop, 90% of it, yes, they still need to work on their eShop of like fixing how you can search and stuff like that, but 90% is independent games, and they're reaching out to these companies and releasing, I think what they say is like 20 independent games a week.
Yeah.
Because they see the value in it, and it's not. The majority of them are single player focused.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel you.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of like my biggest thing right now.
Okay.
Because I don't want to talk about the thing that I really hate.
No, I know. No, I think you made a good call.
Yeah.
The thing I hate is, so I've kind of gotten really tired of this whole mentality and support of being proud of being quote unquote bad bitch or being an asshole. I'm proud to be an asshole.
This is who I am, accept it.
Like, so here's the thing. I understand that this kind of comes from more of people coming from toxic relationships and toxic, just in any part of their life, where whether it's they came from an ex or a spouse or just friends who, when they stood up for themselves, said like, man, you're being a bitch, or like, you're being an asshole. Yeah. Like, I understand that. You're like, well, then I am an asshole. Like, you're just like trying to stay empowered. I get that. To that level. But when you're going around and you're just saying shitty things or causing arguments or just saying things that no one agrees because you want to get a reaction, and you're like, I'm like, call me a bitch, I'm just honest, I'm proud to be a bitch, or call me an asshole.
Yeah, sorry, just going off of that, like, one of my old coworkers, or it's just...
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Like...
The one I always forget the name of.
Yeah, she's the one with the famous dad.
Oh, okay, I forget her name.
Yeah. That was one thing that pissed me off so much, because when I got into it with her, because she was talking shit about Dev, she was like, I'm just being truthful and honest. I'm up front. And I was like, fuck you. No, you're not. Right, no. It's like, no, being truthful and honest is not being a bitch.
Like, yeah, no, there's difference between being a condescending fucking cunt and actually just being honest and trying to reach a resolution.
Yeah.
There's a difference. And I really hate this mentality because it's supporting a toxic way of communicating with the people around you and a toxic way of living. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like we can sit here and tell people how they should live their lives, but you can't sit there and be like, call me a bitch, but I'm just being honest. Like, no, like, if you're being a fucking bitch, you're being a goddamn bitch. Yeah. This isn't something to be proud of. Like,
or if you're being an asshole, you're being a fucking asshole.
Like, correct your fucking behavior and be a decent goddamn person. Like, it's different when, like, you say something like, look, I understand it puts me in an asshole light, but I think you're considered a good parent if you get your kid vaccinated. Like, that's a constructive, like, way to start a conversation. But if I went and said, if I went and said, like, you're a trash fucking parent, don't deserve a goddamn kid, like, yeah, fuck, like, maybe I'm an asshole, but I'm proud of that. Like, that's something we shouldn't be proud of. No. And, it's again, I understand the whole, like, standing up for your belief. If that makes you look like an asshole, then fine, whatever. Like, I get that. Stand by your belief. But when you're trying to hurt people and trying to tear them down and just be mean, and you're using excuses like, I'm just honest, whatever, I'm a bitch. That's what I get for being honest.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're being a terrible fucking person. Like, cut it out.
Seriously.
The thing I love, though, is that, like, earlier this month, I didn't get to talk about it just because we were doing a live recording. But I went to a concert with one of my close friends, Jenna. We went and saw Astronaut. Mm-hmm. And I was extremely happy because this is like the first concert I've been able to see, I think, like all year, because I actually can't remember the last show I've seen before it. And I was really fucking happy to go see Astronaut. They're still pretty unheard of, but they're this amazing, like, technical, happy, heavy metal band. Like, and, you know, they're one of the few bands that they sound just like the way they sound on their album when they play live. And they're so on point with their instruments and with each other's synergetic energies and just being a live show. Like, it was fucking great, and I was so happy. We went on thinking it was like a Tuesday night, and so like it was an extremely packed house, and I was kind of happy about that because I'm at that weird point in my age where like I kind of dread going to certain concerts if I know it's going to be packed, just because I hate being around so many people, but I love going for the band. You know what I mean? Like. And, like, I just loved it. Like, it was a good show. And I humbled myself because I'm reminded that I can meet almost any celebrity and not give a shit. Like, if George Clooney came in here, I probably wouldn't give a shit. If it was Bruce Campbell, totally different story. But, like, when it comes to meeting artists and, like, musicians, I become the biggest fucking embarrassment ever. Like, so, because we went up to the merch booth. The bass player was running the merch booth that night, and so I was just like, the literal words I fucking said to the dude was like, hey man, like I fucking love your guys' music, it's great, like keeps my depression all time low. And then like I fucking walked off, and like me and Jenna walked off, and I looked at her and I was like, was that really fucking bad? And she's like, yeah, that was pretty bad. I was like, oh god. She's like, do you still want a shirt? I'm like, yeah, but I'm so embarrassed to go back up there. And she's like, well, if you want a shirt, you got to go up there, man. And I was like, okay. So I went up there. I was like, hey, I'm really sorry about that. That was really fucking weird. I apologize. And he was like totally cool about it the entire time. He's just like, hey, it's cool, man. I don't mind. I'm like, thanks. He's like, yeah, no, like, I appreciate you saying those nice things. I was like, I'm glad you didn't like pepper spray me. Like,
I mean, I'm thinking about it. It's right in my hand right now.
Yeah, right. I'm just like, it doesn't matter how cool I'm ever gonna think I am. Like, I cannot talk to musicians that I love their music, and I can never talk to musicians and like actually have a normal conversation. Because I'm just like, yep, you keep my depression at an all-time low.
He was probably thinking, well, if I die tonight, at least everyone will know who did it.
I was like, oh god, that was fucking awkward. Oh man. So if ever we have a listener who wants to come up to us and talk to us, just remember, I embarrass myself all the time, so don't ever feel shy. So, that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this episode's subject, which is
Zambies.
We're gonna talk about damn zombies.
Them Zambies.
Yeah, get good. Get good. Damn zombie, do the flamethrower.
Yeah. So the history of a zombie. A zombie, Haitian French zombie, or zombie, Haitian Creole zombie, is a fictional undead being created through the reanimation of a human corpse. Zombies are most commonly found in horror and fantasy genre works. The term comes from Haitian folklore, where a zombie is a dead body reanimated through various methods, most commonly magic. Modern depictions of the reanimation of the dead do not necessarily involve magic, but often invoke science-fictional methods such as carriers, radiation, mental diseases, vectors, pathogens, scientific accidents, etc. There's a lot.
There are so many things.
The English word zombie is first recorded in 1819 in a history of Brazil by the poet Robert Southey.
I think it's Southey.
Southey? Yeah. Robert Southey, in the form of zombie without the E. It's Z-O-M-B-I.
It would just be zombie. I'm pretty sure.
The Oxford English Dictionary gives the origin of the word as West African and compares it to the Congo words Zambi, God, and Zumbi, fetish.
Giggity.
Kimbundu to Portuguese dictionary from 1903 defines the related word in Zumbias, soul, while a later Kimbundu Portuguese dictionary defines it as being a spirit that is supposed to wander the earth to torment the living. So just to be an asshole, basically.
One of the first books to expose Western culture to the concept of the voodoo zombie was The Magic Island by W.B. Seabrook in 1929. This is the sensationalized account of a narrator who encounters voodoo cults in Haiti and their resurrected thralls. Time claimed that the book introduced zombie to the U.S. speech. Zombies have complex literary heritage with antecedents, I think. Did I say that bad? Antecedents, my bad. Ranging from Richard Matheson and H.P. Lovecraft to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, drawing on European folklore of the undead. In 1932, Victor Halperin directed White Zombie, a horror film starring Bela Lugosi, the one and only. Mm-hmm. Here, zombies are depicted as mindless, unthinking henchmen under the spell of an evil magician. Zombies, often still using this voodoo-inspired rationale, were initially uncommon in cinema, but their appearances continued sporadically throughout the 1930s to the 1960s, with notable films including I Walked with a Zombie in 1943 and Plan 9 from Outer Space in 1915.
The worst movie
the absolute
ever
worst.
Made. A new version of the zombie, distinct from that described in Haitian folklore, has also emerged in popular culture during the latter half of the 20th century. This zombie, quote-unquote, is taken largely from George A. Romero's seminal film Night of the Living Dead, which was in turn partly inspired by Richard Matheson's 1954 novel I Am Legend. No shit!
I know, right?
The word zombie is not used in the Night of the Living Dead, but was applied later by fans. Sorry, I just had to touch on that. That fucking book.
Right?
Dude.
Right?
It's like, it's in everything. It's basically the Samuel L. Jackson of the horror genre.
Yeah.
Like.
I know. Like, it's crazy, right?
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah, when I did that research, I was just like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah. It's just, that's really cool.
Oh, man.
The concept has been popularly associated with the religion of voodoo, but it plays no part in that faith's formal practices. Oh, that's kind of funny.
I know, right?
Zombies are voodoo. No.
No, well, I mean, not really.
No.
How the creatures in contemporary zombie films came to be called quote-unquote zombies is not fully clear. The film Night of the Living Dead made no spoken references to its undead antagonists as quote-unquote zombies, describing them instead as ghouls, though ghouls, which derive from an Arabic folklore, are demons, not undead, although George Romero used the term ghoul in his original scripts. In the later interviews, he used the term zombie. The word zombie is used exclusively by Romero in his 1978 script for his sequel, Dawn of the Dead, including once in dialogue. According to George Romero, film critics were influential in associating the term zombie to his creatures, and especially the French magazine Cahiers du Cinéma. He eventually...
Good.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. I really tried with that one. Like, I actually practiced that before this. He eventually accepted this linkage, even though he remains convinced that at the time that zombies corresponded to the undead slaves of Haitian voodoo as depicted in Bela Lugosi's White Zombie. Zombies are featured widely in Haitian... I really hope I'm saying that. Is it Haitian? Haitian. I'm sorry. Zombies are featured widely in Haitian rural folklore as dead persons physically... What did I say?
Rule.
The fucking rule, man! In rural folklore as dead persons physically revived by the act of necromancy of a bokor, a sorcerer, or witch. The bokor is opposed by the hungan, or priest, and the mambo, or priestess of the formal voodoo religion. A zombie remains under control of the bokor as a personal slave having no will of its own.
The Haitian tradition also includes an incorporeal type of zombie, the zombie astral, which is a part of the human soul. A bokor can capture a zombie astral to enhance its spiritual power. A zombie astral can also be sealed inside a specially decorated bottle by a bokor and sold to a client to bring luck, healing, or business success. It is believed that God eventually will reclaim the zombie's soul, so the zombie is a temporary spiritual entity. it has been suggested that the two types of zombie reflects soul dualism, a belief of Haitian voodoo. Each type of legendary zombie is therefore missing one half of its soul, the spirit or the flesh. So I think it's really funny that it straight up said, this is not part of voodoo, and yet everything keeps going back to voodoo.
Yeah, it's a little back and forth with the history on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll touch on that once we get to the end here. Zombie belief has its roots in traditions brought to Haiti by enslaved Africans and their subsequent experiences in the New World. It was thought that the voodoo deity Baron Samedi would gather them from their grave to bring them to a heavenly afterlife in Africa, Guinea, unless they had offended him in some way, in which case they would be forever a slave after death as a zombie. A zombie could also be saved by feeding them salt, which I thought was really funny. English professor Amy...
like a slug. Yeah!
Like, oh no! No more brains for me! I'm now on a strict sodium diet. English professor Amy Willens has written that the modern concept of zombies was strongly influenced by Haitian slavery. Slave drivers on the plantations, who were usually slaves themselves and sometimes voodoo priests, used the fear of zombification to discourage slaves from committing suicide. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, while not a zombie novel in particular, prefigures many 20th century ideas about zombies, in that the resurrection of the dead is portrayed as a scientific process rather than a mystical one, and that the resurrected dead are degraded and more violent than their living selves. Frankenstein, published in 1818, has its roots in European folklore, whose tales of vengeful dead also informed the evolution of the modern conception of the vampire. Later notable 19th century stories about the avenging undead include Ambrose Bierce's The Death of Halpin Freyser and various Gothic romanticism tales by Edgar Allan Poe. Though their works could not be properly considered zombie fiction, the supernatural tales of Bierce and Poe would prove influential on later writers such as H.P. Lovecraft, by Lovecraft's own admission.
In the 1920s and early 1930s, the American horror author H.P. Lovecraft wrote several novella that explored the undead theme. Cool Air, In the Vault, and The Outsider all deal with the undead, but Lovecraft's Herbert West Reanimator 1921 helped define zombies in popular culture. This series of short stories featured Herbert West, a mad scientist who attempts to revive human corpses with mixed results. Notably, the resurrected dead are uncontrollable, mostly mute, primitive, and extremely violent. Though they are not referred to as zombies, their portrayal was prescient, anticipating the modern conception of zombies by several decades.
So, there we go.
Nobody really knows where zombies came from.
Well, okay, so obviously I think we need to touch on the whole why... What's the deal with zombies and voodoo, basically? Mm-hmm. So, I get from it that maybe it's more so voodoo priests who kind of use the idea of zombification to scare people. Yeah. And maybe whether it's to get something that they want or to just teach a lesson to someone that offended them. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why they do it. Or it also kind of just seems like in voodoo traditions that they don't have like zombies, but they have people that they control in a zombified manner. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like they're pretty much brain dead.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea that it came out from the voodoo thing is the fact that they're mind controlling someone.
Well, I'm wondering if it's more so believable that a voodoo priest could bring back somebody from the dead as a zombie more though than science can. Mm-hmm. Which is funny enough because it's like, we can always argue that Frankenstein is like the king of zombies because he's a zombie made through science.
Frankenstein's monster.
I'm
going to be that person.
I know. Frankenstein's monster is like the king of zombies. Mm-hmm. In this case, because it's, I feel like it's, I'm wondering, like, I like, that's just what I think is that it's like, it's far easier to believe that a zombie could come from magic or a curse.
Yeah.
Than science. Which, funny enough, though, like, most notable horror movies with zombies come from science. Yeah. Because whether it's like
radioactive
chemicals, or just being put together by dead body parts. I mean, fuck, let's talk about Dawn of the Dead. Let's talk about Return of the Living Dead. Yeah. Like, even Return of the Living Dead, they come back due to chemical warfare.
Yep.
Like, and you find out in the movie it's all because they were test subjects and whatnot. Like, corpses were test subjects.
Yep.
Like, at no point was there any, like, voodoo, hinting at voodoo mishap or anything like that. And so, I love talking about zombies because that was my shtick. Besides, like, Stephen King's It was into horror with zombies.
Yep, like, that was mine too. I think that was actually, besides Child's Play, zombies was the biggest thing for me too.
Yeah.
Because, like, I always loved watching my cousins play Resident Evil.
Oh, yeah. So, I just loved watching...
Which, again, science.
Yeah, no, it was science then because they were creating a gene for super soldiers, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and it went haywire and everybody came mutated fuck-ups.
Yeah.
Basically.
But one thing that I find really funny, especially with, like, zombies nowadays, like, it's not the undead anymore. When you really think about it, it's like, okay, so, like, one of the most popular modern zombies right now is the creatures from The Last of Us. It's from a plant.
I would also argue Walking Dead.
Walking Dead. Well, they're dead.
Yeah, but they don't. But they kind of take it back to Night of the Living Dead before the term zombie was coined. Yeah, because they call them walkers.
Yeah,
they don't call them zombies.
No.
So, but they're also probably the most popular like form of zombies right now.
That and then also when you think about one of the most popular zombie movies ever is 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
Those are living people. They're infected by a rage virus. Like, they didn't die and then come back. It's like they were living and they just got controlled by the virus.
Right.
So I think it's funny just like... Because when you think zombie... Because when I think zombie, I think of a corpse coming back to life. Reanimating. And then that's why it's just the whole... It just goes back to the whole primal nature of I just need to eat. And so, like, the thing that I liked about the walkers from Walking Dead, like zombies... They ate everything. It wasn't just humans. They were eating any living thing. Because, they ate the horse. You see them sometimes eating animals, like small animals and stuff like that. So, like, because one of the things with, like, pop culture zombies is that they only eat humans.
Right.
Like, Night of the Living Dead and stuff. Was it part 2 where they finally had like the chemical zombie? He goes brains.
No, that's Return of the Living Dead.
Return of the Living
Dead. That's
the
first one.
Yeah.
Well, and what George Romero was smart about that is that he explained why they want brains. Because like in Night of the Living Dead, they didn't just go for brains either. They
ate everything.
Yeah. I mean, it was chicken bones, but still.
Yeah.
Like they ate everything, but in Return of the Living Dead, like. They even explain it in the movie, like, why. Because they capture one of the decrepit zombies, and they, it's like a woman torn in half, and so they put her on the, what's that table that a mortician uses? Fuck.
Oh, I can't remember the name.
I'll just call it the slab.
Yeah.
It puts her on the slab, and they ask her, like, why do you want to eat us? She's like, brains relieve our pain. Like, and so basically, like, the zombies are eating brains because they believe it brings them closer to coming back to life, to not being in the pain of dying, because that's what she says, is that we're suffering from the pain of dying, which, like, when you really think about it, is really fucked up and dark.
Because you're like, feeling your entire body decompose.
Right, and we could talk about, like, go back to, like, werewolves, and, like, the transformation of man to werewolf is fucking painful, and you go back and forth, right? Yeah. That's painful. But you can't really, like, distinguish or compare the pain of dying.
Yeah.
Because when somebody, as morbid as it is, when somebody dies, we don't really know what they go through. There's always arguments that it's... and there's more science to back it up now, but, like, there's some ways of dying it's not painful, very peaceful. In some ways it's very agonizing. And so, coming back to Return of the Living Dead, this woman's half of a body. Yeah. Her lower half is completely gone, so she's in constant pain, wanting to eat brains.
Yeah.
Like, and so that type of pain, like, it's, you kind of, in a way, sympathize with them. Because, like, they weren't asked to be brought back to life.
No.
But they are forced back to life, and now they have to figure out a way to stop being in pain. And so, obviously, they don't want to die again, because they're like, this shit sucks. But... It's I just thought that was, like, really smart on Romero, because he's kind of if anything, not just the king of horror, but he's a king of zombie horror.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he really dived into the lore of it. He really made you, like, obsessed with it once you watched enough of the movies. Like, the very first, like, horror movie that, like, terrified the living shit out of me was the remake of Dawn of the Dead. Mm-hmm. Because they made him faster, they made him meaner, they made him more aggressive, like, and they made him terrifying because they would just, like, screech and just, like, yell and just, like, dive into you.
Yeah.
Like, what about you? What was your first, like, zombie horror flick that scared the shit out of you? Or game?
Well, for me, it was actually a game. It was Resident Evil 2 was the first, like, zombie culture thing that really scared the shit out of me, just because, you know, you just hear all the moaning. Even when you didn't see the zombies, you heard the moaning when, you, like, you know, Leon's or Claire's going through the... or not Claire. Yeah, Claire. It was Claire Redfield.
Yeah.
When they're going through, like, the hallways and stuff, like, next to the windows, you hear the zombies moaning and banging on the windows and stuff. And so that was the first time that something zombie-related really scared me. But, like, the remake of Dawn of the Dead did scare me a lot, too. Especially just that first scene with the little girl.
Yeah, that's... Because it's, like, the whole movie up to that point is, like, pretty tame and really relaxed. And, like... Seeing that movie for the first time, like, you're just kind of like, well, I know it's going to be about zombies and, like, people are going to be eaten, but you don't expect it to, like, hit at, like, 0 to 60 within a second.
Yeah.
Like, the way it does, because she just, like, bites that dude's neck and rips it off. And just...
and then and then when he turns and is just hunting down his wife and, like, you know, like, jumps up and
punches through the door.
Yeah. So, like, I think that was the first zombie movie that really scared me, too. But also, the original Dawn of the Dead, it was just... I only saw one scene from it, and it always haunted me and scared the shit out of me for the longest time. And it was the only scene I ever saw from the original. Still the only scene I've seen from the original. Is when this black girl, she sees, I guess, her boyfriend or something like that, but he's all zombified. And he bites her neck, and it just does a little, like, the old-timey, like, one little line of blood. Yeah. But, like, he rips it open, and you see it, and I was so young, I was like, oh, God, no!
Oh, man, I mean, you know, just even going onto Dawn of the Dead a little more, and because I don't know if George A. Romero, like, had any creative control in the remake. I'm not sure if he did, but it really puts the boundaries with it, because in that movie, probably one of the most twisted scenes is the zombified baby. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone kind of, you either remember it or you forget about it entirely, because it's just, it shows a scene of this whole, like, baby that's, like, been turned zombified.
Yeah. Well, the mom who's zombified, you're watching her give birth. Yeah. like everything and as a zombie.
Yeah, and she gives birth to a zombie baby, which is totally like George, Romero style, and it's just like, and like then does a cutaway shot where they shoot the baby. It's a totally dark and macabre scene, but it's Romero. Yeah. And I just love his films. I mean,
I do too. His zombie film, like, I think one of his, like, more underrated films too is Land of the Dead.
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. That's the one where they, like, walk underwater, right? Yeah. Yeah.
They walk underwater. Because, like, okay, so what's really funny that I find about that is, so, like, a lot of the things that happen in Land of the Dead happen in the book World War Z.
Really?
Yeah, the whole zombies coming out from the water and everything, and just, like, being this unstoppable force, just, like, walking and stuff like that. Because, like, in the book, like, they talk about zombies being submerged underwater. And they're not dead because, like, to kill a zombie, you have to destroy the brain. Like, they can't drown, so they're just chilling at the bottom, grabbing divers and stuff like that.
But wouldn't, like, the pressure from the water at some point just crush their bones or fuck them up in some way so they're not...
Depends on how deep.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they can't just walk through every body.
No, they can't, like, walk through the ocean.
Like, they're not going to be able to go through the Atlantic Ocean and just be like, well, that sure was a good time.
Well, they don't in the movie. They walk through a lake.
That's why I'm just wondering, like, how deep can they go till it starts fucking them up, is my whole thing.
Probably the same as a human.
Probably.
Just, like, that depth.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I ask is because, like, if we really take apart the anatomy of a zombie, it's like, so if there was, like, a zombie apocalypse during the hot summer, like, maybe here in Colorado or Phoenix, Arizona, where it gets, like, over 100 degrees, like, I feel like because they're dead, they don't have, nutrients. They don't have as much, going through their body as a normal living person would to keep it alive. Because, normal human body, we sweat to, kind of keep ourselves cool down. They don't have that. There's not. So wouldn't they just decompose faster in the hot summer? And same thing in the cold, like in Alaska. Like, wouldn't they just get frostbite quicker and just even freeze solid?
Well, okay, so like the frozen thing, what you have to think about is like their blood isn't pumping, so it's not moving; it's coagulated.
Yeah.
And so that I think they would just like freeze in place.
Yeah.
And so so one of the ideas about if a zombie was frozen, once it thawed out, it would still be able to move.
Right.
Like it would still function and stuff like that. Because the zombie's decomposing, so if it froze, it'd stop decomposing.
Yeah, but it would just freeze, and then you have just a whole mass of like zombies frozen, and then like you can just go out there with like a shovel, and just like dink, raking up the zombie heads, raking up the zombie heads.
But I don't know, because and also like again, you have to go off of like what zombie are you dealing with? Because nowadays we have so many different types of zombies. We have viral infected zombies where it's not a dead person; it's just a person infected with the virus. Or then you have what me and you describe as like to us the original zombie, which is the dead coming back to life.
Yeah.
And like decomposing and everything.
Well, and like one going on adding to what you're saying is like it also like it's how they're infected, because it's like, so if we took like the zombies from The Walking Dead, probably a lot easier to survive those because I don't know like they can get trapped in wells. Like, stairs seem to be kind of a obstacle for them, So, like, being higher up is kind of a good thing. But if we talk about, like, zombies from Evil Dead or Dawn of the Dead, who are far more ferocious and a little more smart, those ones have a better chance of fucking you up royally. And maybe Evil Dead isn't a good example because technically you can argue they're not...
They're not really zombies. They're demon
possessed. Unless the body's already dead, and then the demon possesses it, and then you could kind of argue that it is a zombie.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's what makes the zombies in like Dawn of the Dead far more terrifying. It's because it's like you see someone you trust.
A lot more primal.
Yeah, and I think it's like whether it's your spouse or your parents or your friend, you see how they can be at their bad moments, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're like, well, I would really hate it if like my dad just turned on me and wanted to hurt me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, thank God that doesn't happen. And then when we go into the universe of zombies, it makes you face that. Because now your dad doesn't give a crap about you. Mm-hmm. He wants to murder you. And he will do whatever it takes to get to you, to murder you, to eat you for his own sustenance. And I think that's what's terrifying about a zombie. Is that it's what you said. It's primal.
Yeah, and like the thing that, I feel like when you think of like zombie fatigue and stuff like that, because that's like a big fatigue in video games and even like kind of movies nowadays too. Is like everyone's kind of zombie fatigued. It's mostly because no one picks up on that moment. Like in most things is the fact, like they do touch on it. Like in the remake of Dawn of the Dead, the black guy couldn't kill his wife. I don't know his name. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But, like, he couldn't kill his pregnant wife when she was zombified because he's like, that's my wife. Like, I can't do it.
But she didn't care.
Yeah, but she was trying to eat him.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they don't touch on that enough in those kind of movies when you have to think about it. Like, yeah, you have, like, one or two people that go through that motion in the movies and stuff, but, like, because, like, I'm sitting there and I'm screaming at the screen when I'm watching the movie. I'm like, just fucking kill her! But, like, I never really sit there and think, it's like, I don't know if I could. Like, like if I saw my dad as a zombie, like I don't know what I'd be able to do.
Right. Like, and that's that. Well, and that's what's rough about it. What was I going to add into that? Because I had another point that I wanted to bring in. About that is that, well, I guess because like Land of the Dead is probably one of the few times like a zombie movie like has zombies that have some sort of humanity to them. Yeah,
because the main zombie, the gas attendant dude, like he actually learns. Like he learned because like one of the things that they were talking about is like they're dumb, but they have like there was a theory going through the movie that they all theorize that the zombies actually remember their past lives, like parts of it. Well, because he would come out whenever he heard the bell ring, he would come out to pump gas into the thing.
Yeah,
and then he would go back inside. And then he just ended up learning to use a gun and stuff like that. Like,
yeah. You know. Well, because even in Day of the Dead, they go into that. Because remember, in Day of the Dead, they actually capture a zombie and like study him.
Bob?
Yeah, I think it's Bob. And they actually study to see how much he remembers and like if he retains any sort of humanity. And throughout the movie, he slowly starts to do so. Like he slowly starts to remember that he is once human. Like, and so they're like, oh, holy shit. And then like even movies like Warm Bodies like touch on that, where it's like, even though it's the most cheesy way ever, because it's basically like, you can bring zombies back with the power of love.
Like, you gotta get that heart pumping.
Yeah, like, but they do it by reminding them they were once human, that they once loved something, and so there is like a way to reverse, or like a theorized way to reverse zombification, you know, or being undead. Well, I remember it was just an interesting fact because when I was doing the research, I also found out that I think it was like in 2014 or 2015, there was alone 44 zombie movies released. Jesus. Or like zombie related like media.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, I could see why people would start getting fatigued pretty quick.
Yeah.
Like within a year, 44 of those bad boys, like damn. Which I would say Twilight would have probably been more entertaining if Bella ended up being a zombie, but that's just me.
Yeah. I mean, she basically is already. I mean, look at her.
Thank you for having me over for dinner. Heard her twitches. Like, I swear, I was worried that at one point she was going to twitch, that her neck was going to snap. Thank you.
Why? Huh.
Edward! Get the brace! So, I mean, we've done talking about a lot of zombies. Should we just jump into our films now?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you went first last time.
Yep.
So I'll go ahead and go first this time. So, obviously, like, we just talked about how much we love zombies and how it was, like, our first, you know, what in horror.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I can do, the movies I want to do is like, okay, I can do Dawn of the Dead remake. I can do Fido, which I really loved. I can do Return of the Living Dead, which I feel like still needs a lot more love. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like a lot of those are very expected. I feel like, you know, except Fido, I actually do want to say Fido for another day. So I was like, what is this zombie?
You know what's funny about Fido is another movie that showed a zombie having humanity.
Yeah. And so we need to talk about that one. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do one that's really obscure, really weird, and really unknown. And so, you know, after I had my accident in like 2012 and I was recovering, going through the stages of like grief and everything, you know, I really delved into horror heavily that time. And so I started just buying really random horror movies that looked interesting to me. So one of them I picked up was 2008's Trailer Park of Terror. So, Trailer Park of Terror. Synopsis is 6 troubled high schoolers and their leader becomes lost after their bus crashes during a raging storm. They seek refuge for the night in an abandoned trailer park managed by a sexy woman, Norma. This is literally what it says on IMDb. Directed by Steve Goldman, written by Timothy Dolan, stars Nicole Hiltz, Lou Temple, and Jeanette Brox. Also, I want to point out, funny fact, and this shows how out of tune I am when it comes to country music. Trace Adkins is in this movie. So I found this out when I was actually looking up like the casting list for this movie. Yeah, Trace Adkins, the country star, is in Trailer Park of Terror. So, God damn it, Mr. Meeksies.
Yeah, my mom's calling me.
Oh. Sorry, Cody's mom. But yeah, it's Trace Adkins is in this movie. And so I love that about it because it's just a weird, funny, interesting thing. Like, Trace Adkins is in this movie. So if for any of our country fans out there you go. So pros, this movie is a very cool B-movie atmosphere the entire time. Like, it's straight up B-movie material. And so for all of our B-movie lovers out there, if you want another good B-movie to your catalog, this is one you want to keep an eye on. And throughout the movie, it has a definite, like, Devil's Rejects, House of 1,000 Corpses, rockabilly feel the entire time. And so I thought that was really cool because it's, you know, the whole movie is set in this trailer park which looks like it could be in Texas, because there's just desert and sand. Well, I shouldn't say desert, but it's mostly wasteland landscape, sand everywhere, hot, humid, and just very southern draw to it. And so it has that Devil Rejects, House of Corpses, rockabilly feel, and I really like that part of it because, and I'll get into more about why it has a rockabilly feel to it a little bit later on. Mm-hmm. One other thing it does is that although this comes off as a very like cheesy B-movie feel, it does a good job at explaining the lore and the dark past of the trailer park. Like, it does a great job of explaining why the trailer park is like pretty fucked up and like why it's just this like hunting ground for, satanic, supposed satanic zombies. And the practical effects in this movie are actually really good. So whenever they cut off an arm or they rip off someone's like face or like open up someone's chest to eat the guts, like it's really good. Mm-hmm. It's really good practical effects, and I love that about this. Because there's even a scene where one of the zombies is chasing one of our protagonists who's trying to get away in a minefield.
Yeah.
And so like the zombie steps on one mine and blows up, and like it's just he's like half of a body, and he's like I'm gonna get you, bitch. Like it's half of a body. He's like Skeeter. I actually don't remember the character's name, so I'm going with Skeeter. Skeeter, get over here, put me back together.
I just think it's funny. Like, of course there would be a minefield outside of a trailer park.
Right. I'm just like whatever. It's fucking rockabilly, Devil's Rejects, man. And that one of the zombies in this movie is like, I call him the rockabilly zombie because he has the somewhat pompadour hair with the huge sideburns and wears cowboy boots the whole time, and and I love his guitar. His guitar is like, I know it's a weird thing to point out, but it's my fucking movie review, so so
you can go fuck yourself.
Yeah, so the guitar he plays is so badass because it has a built-in speaker and it looks like a D'Angelico guitar, and it's just like has a built-in speaker, and he just like plays at random moments throughout the movie. So like there's a point in the movie where one of our protagonists gets in demolition derby car.
Yeah. And
so like the other like zombified trailer park residents, start ramming her, and he's like, "Start your engines," and starts like shredding on his guitar in a very rockabilly like sound style.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's so fucking cool. Like, he's a total piece of shit, but like it's so fucking cool the entire time because I'm like, that's just like, it's just a cool character. Like when he's zombified and he's just wailing on this guitar, it's fucking dope. And that's kind of what I really like about this movie is that it keeps a very cool tone throughout. Like you can tell that it's trying not to be very serious at certain parts, and you can tell when it wants to be taken a little more seriously. But and I'll explain that a little more here in a second. But it's a very cool B-movie feel throughout the entire movie. And it's one that you kind of just keep watching, and you want to keep watching and see if they're going to get more fucked up throughout the entire time. Because it's fucked up. I mean, there's a kill in this movie where it's a Asian massagist, Masua, who's like doing the foot massage on a person's back, and like snaps his back with her feet and like makes the spine pop out. Like, and that's a moment where the practical effects look really good because the spine literally like looks like it's popping out.
Yeah,
and it's just blood and just like it's fucking painful to look at. Like it hurt my lower back.
It's like, my back.
Oh god.
And this is why I don't let people walk on my back.
Exactly. This is exactly why. But for my cons is that this movie might be a little cheesy at some points. So I mean,
Trace Adkins is in it.
It's Trace.
And it takes place in a
which I will
park.
say, Trace Adkins. It's hinted that he's like the devil in this movie. So because the way this movie is set up in the beginning is that Norma, who runs away from the trailer park because her boyfriend was murdered by some of the residents within the trailer park, she's running away and she's like upset and pissed off because she was just about to go on this date and her boyfriend's now dead. And so she runs into this man in black, which is Trace Adkins, and he's like peeing on the side of the road, and steam is coming up from his pee. So you're kind of like, oh, I get it. And then when he finally has a conversation with her, he's like, basically says, he's like, you know, some people say violence isn't the answer, but I disagree, and pulls out, I forget the type of gun, but it's a wooden handle, and it's like basically like semi-automatic, I think. Mm-hmm. I'm not the best when it comes to like describing guns, so it goes pew pew. So he basically, you know, pulls out this guy and is like, suggests like, you know, I'll make a deal with you. I'll give you the means to an end here to get your revenge, you know, for your soul. Like, it doesn't fully explain that, but it's basically like the devil went down to Georgia. Yeah. Kind of like a lore of like the devil in disguise. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so she takes the gun from him and goes and murders everyone in the trailer park. And she kind of becomes the pseudo leader zombie of the entire trailer park at that point. Yeah. And I that's not much of a spoiler because it gives that away right away at the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Trace Adkins is basically suggested to be Satan, so which makes him a little more cool in my book. So maybe I'll start listening to a little more Trace Adkins music. But anyways,
honky tonk, donka donk.
But so where it's cheesy is like there's a point where they're driving, like the pastor is driving the bus through like a rain scene, and then like, there's this very deep song playing in the background that's basically like, no one understands me.
Oh, life is I was like, so it's like playing in the background where you could just like kind of fan it, and it's just going that honky tonk. That honky tonk, dun dun dun,
yeah, no, it's just like this really like deep, like the world is unfair and I'm fucked up song throughout the entire time. So it comes off a little more cheesy, but it's definitely supposed to more be of that B-movie rockabilly kind of feel. Yeah. But I took it as a little more cheesy. Also, since this is more of an indie, low-budget film, some of the CG effects aren't too good. So, like, there's a point where Norma seduces the pastor and is, like, you know, going at it, riding him and whatnot, and, like, her face starts to come off. And they do that part with CG. And so, like, you could just tell it's CG, and so it's not that good. Yeah. Right? But, also, another con is that, so coming back to the Asian masseuse, you know, when the people go into her like room where she gives massages, and she's just standing there with like a silk robe on, and is wearing like a creepy cracked doll mask, and the dude continues to walk in there to get a massage. Like, you can tell he's unsure about it, but he still walks in. I'm like I don't even care if it's not in a fucked up trailer park. Like, if there's just a massage parlor that has a woman wearing a dark, cracked doll mask, I'm not getting a massage by her. Like, that's murder.
But
like,
it could be the best massage ever.
Like, though. She might as well wear a sign that says, I will kill you. like, I'm going to, like, I made that a con because, like, he had his death coming at that point. Because it's just like, yeah, sure, I'm sure it's fine. Like, and so, like, I'm just like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, you can tell, like, she's a murderer. Like, she's gonna kill you. Also, as good as the practical effects and makeup is in this movie, there's points where it's not too hot. So, the rockabilly zombie, coming back to him, when he kills one of the teenagers, she's, like, flipping out. Well, I shouldn't say she's flipping out. She's having a trip because she's a druggie. And so she finds, like, some crystal meth and, like, gets high on it. And so, like, she sees him for the first time, and, like, half of the effects are cool because, like, his eyes are, like, electrified. Yeah. But you can tell, like, he's wearing a mask. Yeah. Like, because the way it moves, it's very unnatural. And so, it just, you can tell it's a mask at that point. And so, like, there's small points that throughout the movie where some of the practical effects aren't the hottest. So I'm making that a con. And then one of my WTF scenes is that there's a point where one of our protagonists is trying to save the girl who's drugged out because she gets her arm cut off by the rockabilly zombie. And so she's like out on the ground, and she's just like, somebody help me. And so like protagonist comes and like helps her and saves her. and like she's trying to get her up and pick her up, and like, we gotta go. One of the other hillbilly zombies comes out, and he's just like, "Howdy, I'm Marv!" Like, and you can tell it was supposed to not be serious. Like, it was supposed to be a funny part, because he just, like, walks, it's like a faraway shot, he walks up nonchalant, and he's like, "Howdy, I'm Marv!" And she's like, "Oh, God, Marv!" And so, I just thought that was really funny, because it's just, it's a WTF scene, and I loved it. So getting to the end of my review, Trailer Park of Terror is definitely one of your more non-conventional zombie horror flicks, because, you know, the zombies in this movie retain their well, I shouldn't say retain their humanity, because they're not humane, but they retain their intelligence. They know, like, you know, they all are a more fucked up version of themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about it, because it took a fresher take on zombies for me, where it wasn't just them hunting down, trying to eat people. Like, each one of them had their own shtick. Like, we had the rockabilly zombie, and then you have the zombie that skinned animals when he's alive, so now he skins people, you know, and then you have, you know, the giant fat zombie who, you know, overly ate animal meat when she was alive, and now she wants to eat human meat.
Yeah.
And so, like, they made that just a characteristic mainly for her. And that's what I loved about it, is that each zombie, like, was its own unique thing. It wasn't just a blended, like, mass of zombies. And that's what I thought was really cool, because it's a cool, like, southern fried feel horror movie.
Yeah.
And that's why I loved it, and that's why I think it deserves so much more attention. And it's just a good addition to any zombie catalog. Because, if anything, you would also mistake this movie as a passion project that Rob Zombie would have done.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I love about it. And that's my review.
Cool.
Right.
Cool. So I did my movie, Train to Busan, and because, like, I was kind of the same way. I was like I was thinking of all the zombie movies that I love, like the remake of Dawn of the Dead,
Right.
Shaun of the Dead.
Solid one.
Yeah, and
hilarious.
Yeah, and I was trying to think. I was like, man, I kind of want to do something that I looked at, like maybe one of the movies that I've been wanting to watch that I haven't really heard a whole lot about.
Right.
And so I saw Train to Busan, and fuck.
Yeah, it's a pretty deep movie.
Yeah. So the synopsis is, while a zombie virus breaks out in South Korea, passengers struggle to survive on the train from Seoul to Busan. It's directed by Sang-ho Yeon, written by Joo Suk Park and Sang-ho Yeon. It stars Yu Gong, Yu Mi Jung, and Dong Seok Ma. So,
and I think it's Yu Gong, because it's two O's.
Oh, Yu Gong?
No, Yo Gong.
Yo Gong. Okay, whatever.
Either way,
I don't speak Korean. So like, one of my friends, he always tells me, he's like, you know, it's it's kind of surprising, but like how really good like Korean films are.
Yeah.
And so like when I saw that, saw it was a foreign film, I almost didn't watch it, but I was like, no, it looks good, and I kind of like looked up just a couple quick reviews about it, and it had really good reviews. So I was like, I guess I'll watch it. But I have never been so invested in a character in a zombie flick until this movie. Like,
right.
Like, it makes you care about the characters, especially because like that was one thing that I really liked, especially like even just like a couple like small like out of the way characters, like you know, they're there throughout most of the movie, but like they're not like main key points. Like it was crazy, because I was like, God, like I actually want to see these people live.
Yeah, like because they weren't like carbon copy characters.
Like they had the like a couple stereotypical archetypes. Like you have your random strong dude who knows how to fight and beat the shit out of everything, but he was kind of like flamboyant dressed, because like he had a nice jacket, a scarf, and stuff like that. But and he ended up being like the badass.
Yeah.
And then even the dad, like it was kind of funny, because like the dad, he works in finances and stuff, and there's this really crazy twist with him, but I'm not gonna spoil it, because like
it's
fuck. Like good. When I saw it, I was like, God damn it! Like it's insane, because it touches on. It's cool to see an aspect of it. Like this thing that sucks, like, with my review, like, a lot of things I loved about this movie, it's almost spoiler territory. It's, like, borderline.
I mean, if you want, we can touch on one spoiler and skip ahead.
I will in a minute, but, okay. Like, so
I'll get
things
the timer ready anyways.
Yeah, so, one cool thing that happens in the very beginning of the movie, which I was really sad they didn't touch on after. Like, they didn't touch on, like, this aspect of what could happen afterwards, but so it shows that the virus, this zombie virus in the movie, doesn't infect just humans. This deer gets hit by a truck.
Yeah.
And then the truck drives away, and then the deer just pops back up and has the, like,
fucked up eyes.
The milky eyes that they show in this movie that the zombies have. So I thought that was really cool. And then there's this one part where, like, so how the train gets infected is some girl who's infected by the zombie virus. Like, she's already been attacked. Like, you don't see her get attacked. She literally, like, so the guy checking for tickets and everything turns his back. She literally slams into the door and then just falls into the train. And he just stood there like he didn't hear anything. I was just like,
it's normal for him. There's always crazy people on the train.
I was like, you don't hear that? Like, because, like, there's this one homeless dude who becomes, like, a mainstay in the entire show, in the entire movie. No one notices him get on. He gets on silently. But this bitch just, like, literally runs into the door. And it's not like the door shut on her, like, immediately after she boarded. Like, there was a good 30 seconds that the dude's just standing there, like, oh, that loud thump behind me of, like, a girl in hysteria? Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
And he didn't have, like, headphones on, did he?
No, he was, like, he literally just checks someone in on the train, turns his back, and then she just goes, wham! And then falls into the train. Like, it's not like she just, like, barely touched it. She, like, straight on ran into the train.
I guess the only argument you can make is that maybe when the doors are closed, it cancels out some of the sound. And
no, the doors were open.
Oh, okay.
They didn't close. Well, she hit the side of the train.
Well, what I was going to say is that maybe he just thought it was just part of the train as the train was moving, and maybe it hit a bump. It wasn't
moving. Or nothing there was no reason, no ramifications to justify it.
Or the other thing is that he's a train conductor, and there's just crazy people on the train every now and then.
But without a ticket. Like, you literally see him check the tickets of the people before her. That's the thing. And he just
okay, maybe he deserves to be fired.
You know what? He dies. So good. I was happy about that. That was the first death. I was like, good. It's your fault. All these other people are gonna die now because you just, like, decided to not hear a chick run straight head into the train.
You're fired.
So,
you're eaten.
But one thing that I kind of liked about it is, like, it somewhat showed a government conspiracy in the beginning, but, like, they were covering up the zombie attacks as riots. They're just saying, it's just a riot, you know, it's blah, blah, blah. And then there's this cool little throwaway line that I thought was insane because, like, because, you know, it's from South Korea. And so, you know, the whole, and this was back, and when this came out, there was still the whole, like, animosity between Southern and Northern Korea.
Okay.
So there's these two sisters, they're older ladies. And it's really cool that they just threw this, like, one line in them, but there's so much ideology behind this one line. So they're watching the riots, the zombie attacks, quote unquote riots.
Right.
And one of the older sister was just like, you know, when we were younger, when it was all one country, they wouldn't be tolerating this. We'd put them down now. And, like, the younger sister who grew up in a Southern Korea environment, instead of the Northern Korean environment, she was just like, shut the fuck up. Like, and those aren't the exact terms, but, like, the older sister has more of a Northern Korean dictatorship style thought. While the other sister was like, no, we free. Like, I just thought that was actually really cool. I was like, fuck. Like, damn.
Like, the little subtle, like, political divide between both.
Like, right there. I was just like, that's really good. And then the gore in this movie is, like, there's not a whole lot of, like, blood squirts and stuff like that. Like, but the gore in it is, like, pretty solid.
Yeah.
And it's like, in my head, it's a little more realistic because it's not like, you know, there will be blood pouring out when you get your throat ripped out and stuff like that.
Right.
But, like, on the zombies, like, it's just around their mouth where, like, they're eating. Like, so their teeth are still clean, like, clean-esque.
Oh, okay.
So, like, you know, when you're eating spaghetti and you smile afterwards, you don't see marinara all over your teeth, but you see it all over your face. Like, they kind of did that. So it's like the zombie was, like, literally just shoved their face into, like, cherry pie, and then, like, I was like, nah!
I don't know why, but, like, the way you did that made me think of that scene from, like, Family Guy, when Family Guy was still pretty funny. Like, when, like, Peter wasn't, like, there for dinner, and, like, Stewie was, like, parodying Peter, and he's just
he's like, oh, look, I'm the fat guy.
I don't know why it's maybe think of that. It's like, oh, look at me, I'm just a fat guy eating human flesh.
But one thing that it did, so they actually do say zombie in the movie. They're like, don't believe zombie, blah 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 blah. But in my head, I'm just kind of I was thinking to myself when because of when this came out, not only did they drop the word zombie, I was also thinking to myself, because the way a lot of the people are acting in this, and stuff like that, you can tell they know they're zombies, but they don't act like they know they're zombies and stuff. I'm just in my head, I'm like, has no one ever seen a zombie movie? This is more of a thing that pisses me off about in most zombie movies. Mm-hmm. Is has no one ever seen in the universe that this movie is supposed to be taken in? Has zombies never been a thing? Yeah. It was kind of a big critique on just zombie movies in general. It's they're zombies. You know they are.
Well, and you can always make the arguments because the people are in shock. But I mean, even that only goes so far.
Yeah, once they start actually fighting back, I'm just has no one seen a zombie movie? Does that just never? That just doesn't exist or whatever. And you can just say to all zombie movies, they never. There's never that, especially when they have the teenagers or the young adults in these movies. It's not. I'm always surprised that there isn't one of them that just goes, yeah, they're zombies. What? And then you
gotta aim for the head.
Yeah, nothing really like that. I know there's some issue, some points in movies where they are oh yeah, they're zombies, kill the brain, whatever. But it's never from the beginning, and that's one thing that kind of agitated me about it. Yeah.
And we talked about that in our last episode where they just werewolf. What's that? Yeah. Zombie. What's that? What's? I never even heard of it.
Mm-hmm. And then so the one thing that also bugged me about it was just another small con that I had was in all these movies, there's always that one rich asshole that is around, so in this they're on a train and he's the one screaming at the conductor and the other people who run the train. He's we need to get to Busan now, you will fucking go straight forward, blah, I own this company, you listen to me now. There's always that person. Yeah. And it always kind of agitates me. I was what? Why is it always that one person? At one point he even gets the entire train car to turn against the protagonists, the group of people that you're following. Yeah. And because everyone listens to him, and just I know they're in hysteria and he looks like he's keeping the calm head and stuff like that, but this is the point of where has no one seen a zombie movie happens, because they have no marks or bites or anything from the zombie, and everyone in the train car saw people get bit and turn into a zombie almost immediately. Right. And they're and it's if I was one of those other people, I would kind of stand there and go, no, shut up, give them a minute.
Your money don't mean shit now, we're all trying to survive.
Yeah, and at that point I would be standing there no, give them a minute, hold on, let's see if this happens. Kind of thing. It's and they were at the door to where they could just boot them out if they started turning into a zombie. Instead, they're oh my god, get off this train.
It's because but I think it's when that situation when shit goes crazy, there's that one person who stands up to
who's basically Hitler.
Yeah, who stands up to take the leader role. And it's always the shitty guy first.
Yeah, and I get it, and I always get why that happens in movies, but at the same time, it's it's frustrating with that, and then that's where the whole has no one ever seen a zombie movie? Yeah. Especially after you just saw how a zombie came to be in this movie. Yeah. So
pay attention, people.
Yeah, but that was one thing that bugged the shit out of me. One cool fact. So there's this part where the three main males of the movie, they're trying to go get one guy's trying to get to his pregnant wife. The other dude's trying to get... The main guy that you're following, he's trying to get to his daughter. And then the teenager baseball player, he's trying to get to his girlfriend. And they're all, together. And then all the girls are, together in their own little train car. Yeah. What's really cool is they actually... So they see that the zombies are actually trying to bite. And they actually kind of go smart... They smartly, tape themselves up where they would get bitten, because they're going to be using their arms, so they know they get bitten on the wrists and the hands and stuff, and they're taping all those. This is where I'm going to get bit. I got to protect myself. Yeah. So I thought that was cool because most movies don't do that.
No, you almost see that in none of the zombie movies. At all.
Even when they're prepping, they see they're we got to get to there. There's zombies, so let's get mentally ready. It's bitch, you're about to get bit. So I
see, there's a suit of armor somewhere around.
And another cool thing that they do in this movie, is that they actually go back to the whole like zombies don't think, and so like it was kind of dumb. Like I thought it was a little dumb because like in my head like it makes no sense, but they know that they don't have to lock the doors; they just have to shut them. And the zombies aren't smart enough to open the door.
Oh, okay.
But I was just thinking, I was like, but you'd think because they're all thrashing at it, that someone would kind of move the door at some point, like just in that kind of sense, like even if they're not trying to open it, just like from that. But one thing that I thought was really cool in this movie is that they touched on that zombies can't see in the dark.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool because like they and these ones because they're all milky-eyed. I mean, yes, they do see them when there's light. But, like, you know, they mostly go by sound in this movie. Yeah. So I thought that was really cool because there was one point where, like, one of the protagonists was about to get eaten, but then it goes all dark because the train goes through a tunnel, the zombie stops, and then it's just like, where the fuck are you? Like, what? So I thought that was pretty cool. And I like... This movie did the swarm mentality better than World War Z. Like, I think. Like,
I get
you know, like they're all running in swarm and climbing over each other. Like,
I would
that
say
shit
that
was crazy.
I would say in this movie it's far more terrifying than World War Z.
Oh, yeah. Especially because they're just in a train. So it's like one... Like,
there
take the plane scene from World War Z and times it by like 1,000. And that's how, like, this one was.
Yeah.
And so, time. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of jump scares in this movie. But, like, I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. Yeah. I was just like, fuck, yeah, fuck.
Like, roll, dip, dodge.
So it was really good. And then, like I said, I have never been so invested in a character story arc. Like, yes, I was like, that dude's going to die. He just has that character type. That dude's going to die. That dude's going to die. And I was like, right. But, like, I predicted all the deaths. But I was just at the same time, I was like, there's a small voice in the back of my head. Don't die. You can make it. And the thing that I liked about this movie is that the protagonists, they weren't dumb. Like, they didn't really die for dumb reasons.
Yeah.
Like, which is what I really like. Because most of the time, like, especially, like, you know, you think the teenagers, they're going to die because some stupid reason or whatever. They all died, like, from a fucked up reason. Like, or, like, a shitty thing. So, like, one of the kids... So it's his death, and it's so badass. Like, one of the characters' deaths is so badass because he knows he's about to die. And he's trying to save the main group. So he just fucking picks up a zombie because he already got bit and he already feels himself changing. He picks one up and fucking uses it as a battering ram and just like holds off this horde holding a zombie and it's like wiggling and shit. Like, I laugh, but at the same time, like, no, everyone liked you. Kind of like Games of Thrones.
I know. It was like, that scene was so funny because it was like funny but heartbreaking all at once.
And it was badass too. Like, he's just like holding off an entire horde using a zombie as like a fucking like to hold him off. Like,
he beat a motherfucker with another motherfucker.
Yeah, I thought it was so cool. But then so there was one other thing that I wanted. Okay, so this is gonna be the spoiler part with what and you could just set it for like 30 seconds. Like, it's not very long because this is the one spoiler that I'm going to say. So you just want to
do a minute?
Yeah, do a minute.
Okay. Starting. So, listeners, if you don't want to be spoiled, skip ahead in 3, 2, 1.
So, the cool thing that they did with this was how they explained the zombie outbreak and how it actually linked to the characters. Because the dad, the main guy that you're following, he is a financial... He helps businesses with their finances and stuff like that. He's financial support. That's why he's so rich and, like, why he doesn't spend as much time with his daughter. But like one of the companies that he was financing and pouring money into in the beginning that they name drop and stuff, you find out they caused the zombie outbreak. So he was like left-handedly caused the outbreak, like unknowingly caused this entire thing. And he has this huge breakdown and was just like, I destroyed the world, like, you know, kind of thing. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, that was such a cool little twist to throw in there.
Yeah, this isn't just a simple firing.
No, like, it's like, I destroyed the world. So I thought that was really cool and a really cool thing to throw in there because you never really hear about the causes of the breaks. So.
And welcome back from the spoilers.
Yeah. And then I'm not going to say what happens at the end and stuff like that. Well, the one thing that does happen at the end, so they have to transfer to another train. And it's just the like front train, so it's just the engine train. And there's this really cool scene where like, so the survivors get on there, and then one zombie grabs the back of the train, but it's going so fast it's dragging him. This is like kind of a con for me too, because I'm like that should be tearing it up to pieces.
Yeah, it should be fucking it up.
But it grabs on, and then all these other zombies start jumping and grabbing onto each other and slowing the train down because they all just hurtle into the giant like anchor.
Yeah,
and it was so cool, and I was just like, because I was thinking to myself, I'm like, it's gonna fucking fall apart, and then they all started jumping on. And I was just like, oh shit!
That's when you go out there and start stomping on that zombie's head.
Yeah, because like the main the dad, he starts stomping on the zombies, so because he notices it's slowing down the train, and you see other zombies like gaining on it, he's like, fuck. I just like, I would like, and I'm thinking to myself, if I didn't shit myself at any other point in the movie, if I was one of those survivors, that's when I would shit myself, seeing all the zombies turn themselves into a giant anchor. At
that point, you'd get desperate and start biting their hand, but like, this is how it feels.
Yeah, fuck off. But yeah, so like, and then also, of course, like, the bad guy dies in the end, and like, this is one of the few times where I was like, you really fucking deserved it.
Yeah.
Like, I can't spoil how it happens, but like, you're just like, fuck
it's
you.
Badass.
Yeah, and so, if you never heard of this movie, it's called Train to Busan again. And I highly recommend it, like, especially if you like zombie films, like, even just like, I don't know, I highly, highly recommend this movie. It's really, really fucking good, and definitely see it before they come out with the American remake.
And to add on to it, it's probably one of the very few zombie movies that actually gives you an emotional pull throughout.
Yeah, because like I got attached to these characters, and I'm not really attached. Like, yeah, I'm just like, fuck that guy, yeah, you go hero, but like. Yeah. This time I'm just like, oh god, like I almost cried at the end, that ending part. Fuck.
Yeah.
It's so heartbreaking. But yeah, so a couple fun facts. One that I want to say, I just saw it and I lost it. Where is it? Oh yeah, Train to Busan is the 6th highest grossing domestic film of all time in South Korea.
See, horror is badass. Yeah. I'm telling you this.
Let's see.
Mind if I throw out one?
Oh, yeah.
The actor Dong Seok Ma, the man with the pregnant wife, used to be Yo Gang's personal trainer.
Oh, nice.
That's pretty cool.
Sang Ho Yeon made the animated film Seoul Station, which is a prequel to Train to Busan. The events in Seoul Station take place one day prior to the events in Train to Busan.
Now we gotta watch that one.
Yep.
This is also the first ever South Korean zombie apocalypse action thriller film.
Nice.
Which is funny, because now that's like the second like foreign film that we've done a review for that was the first stuff. Like, because The Lure was the first horror musical to come out of, where did it come out of? Oh my god. Where did The Lure, what was The Lure made in? The movie?
Switzerland?
I think so.
Switzerland, Norway, one of those.
So that's just funny. We've now done 2 movie reviews on that.
Yeah, they were both mine. Yu Gong was actually born in Busan. That's just kind of cool. Fun fact. And So Hee, who plays the character Jin Hee, is an ex-member of the famous K-pop group Wonder Girls. Huh. That's funny.
Also, Train to Busan became the first South Korean film to cross the 1 million mark at the Singapore box office.
Oh, and it was also Sang Ho Yeon's first live-action film.
Yeah, because he only did like previous works in animated features.
That's cool.
So
I highly, highly recommend this movie. Yeah, and it's on Netflix.
And if you love this movie, I want to add on to yours. If you love this one, I strongly recommend that you guys check out Cargo as well.
Yeah.
Because that's also a zombie film that has a strong emotional pull throughout.
Yeah.
That's very similar because it's about a dad saving his daughter.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah. So that being said... unless you have anything else you want to add in.
So I hope you guys liked how we did October with the whole like a monster per episode.
Yeah, thank you, girls and gals, for participating in our poll too.
Yeah, that too. So definitely let us know, because we have a couple ideas of maybe doing like thematic months later on down the road, like maybe just going over like folklore or like things like that. Instead of just having like a week dedicated to like a topic, we can do like something around like this again.
Yeah, or even
focused on,
or maybe like in February we can do like stuff focused on Valentine's Day, and make it more so a holiday for people who don't want to do couple stuff and want to get more into the dark and macabre.
I don't know if we could do a whole month on that.
Or I mean, at least just one episode.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Like maybe we could do
two episodes,
1 or 2 episodes,
reviews and talking about like horror.
But like, I don't know. I would like to hear from you guys if you think we should do like another like whole month based on like something like we did horror movie monsters for this month. Maybe like do another whole month, like I said, on folklore, or like
I agree,
something along those lines where we just do
serial
like
killers.
Yeah, and so like each episode is about one specific, like if we do serial killers, each episode would be like one serial killer, and then something along those lines, like either movies that were inspired by that killer or something like that.
Look, listeners, know if you give us something to work with, we're going to make it great, and we're going to bring you something not only that you laugh your asses off during, but you learn something too.
Yeah. And then also, after this episode, we only have 4 more before we're taking a month break.
Yes, that's the next thing. In December, we are not going to be doing any special December episodes. We're actually going to be taking the month off so we can spend time with our family and friends. Just because, really, June, July, and this month have been our most hectic months. And even November is going to be pretty packed as well with some like great content for everyone.
Yeah.
We're still kind of talking about maybe coming out with something. We kind of toyed around the idea with doing a best of, and so the thing we've kind of talked about is like maybe we want to put it in the hands of you ghouls and gals, where you guys will pick some of our what you feel like are our best episodes, and we'll take clips from those episodes and make a compilation episode or 2 for December to get you through the month of December. That's kind of something we're thinking about. If that sounds cool and you guys would love us to do that, let us know, because we I'd be happy to do that. Next month we're going to be having some solid interviews coming out. We're going to be having
we're going to have a returning Drew.
Yeah, we're going to actually Drew Edwards is going to be coming back to promote the next part of Halloween Man, I believe so.
Cool.
We're going to be having the gang from CPRA, Colorado Punk Rock Army, coming on the podcast to do an episode with us.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of big things coming, and we'll touch more about it in November. But, it's, before we get to that point, we still want to say thank you again for tuning in every other week to listen to us talk about horror and talk about events that are happening in the world and things we love and hate, and just really supporting us. I mean, there's days where we come on this podcast and we're exhausted and we're tired and we're just like, maybe we should reschedule, and we look at each other and we're like, fuck it, no, we gotta
do this.
We gotta bring our A game, because we have people that love listening to us and love hearing us. And when we have listeners that say, hey, your podcast helps me with my depression, or it keeps me laughing, or it helps me with some dark points in my life, that means so much to us. And we're so happy we get to do that for you guys. We're so happy we get to do that for all of you. And so we're going to keep always trying to come in with something new and something innovative and something that everyone's going to love. So, just adding on, December, we're going to be taking that month off. But like I said, if you guys want us to do some special episodes that are compilation of the best of from this year, let us know, and we'll definitely do that. That being said, we're at the end of this episode. So if you want to keep up with everything we're doing and be involved in listener participation corners, please like us and follow us on Facebook, Punk Rock Horror Podcast, at Punk Horror Podcast, and then our Twitter at official PHP, and then
Instagram, Punk Rock Horror Podcast, #PRHP.
You can listen to us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, our website, punkrockhorrorpodcast.com. If you have any strange stories that you want to send in to us to read, or just want to reach out to us to call us out on some of our research, or have band info that you want to send us, please send it to our email, punkrockhorrorpodcast@gmail.com. Please consider becoming a Patreon supporter and supporting the show as we discuss and come up with new and better rewards for all of you amazing ghouls and gals. Lastly, I need to touch on Google Play real quick. So our buddy James actually reached out to us and said that episodes 38 and 39 weren't on there recently. I went and checked to see what was going on and said it was on there. So, but this seems to be a problem. So far, the only solution is that you need to, if you have Google Play as an app on your phone, uninstall it and reinstall it, and it should fix the problem. That's just the only solution I've found so far. You know, we're still working on trying to get that fixed because there's some things that are just out of our control, and we appreciate everyone being patient. But if you can't get our episodes on Google Play or Spotify right away, go to our website because they will be on there the days that they come out on our normal release dates, and you can download them for free. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was something else we needed to touch on. Oh, we're also going to be talking about doing merch soon here. So we're going to be coming up with some shirt ideas and some great, merch for you guys. Maybe we'll come up with some patches for our punk rockers out there and our metalheads out there. We're just going to have some great merch. So stay tuned for that. If you want to be on top of that when we do come out with our merch, go to our website and subscribe to our newsletter, because I think Anna said we have one on there now.
Oh, cool.
And then, or go to our Patreon and become a supporter, and you'll get first dibs on all merch. So, with that being said, thank you again for tuning in, ghouls and gals, and podcast over.
Podcast over.
Bye.
Bye.